Good morning. Welcome back to Wake Up Well. It's Friday the 21st of August. We're tracking along in our current series on the Holy Habits, and this week we're in Evangelism. I don't know if you've ever found yourself in a situation where you're in conversation with someone and the opportunity's arisen for you to share something of what it is that you believe. Someone asks you, what is it about Jesus? And as you've tried to explain, you kind of get to the whole thing of Jesus dying on a cross and the fact that actually Jesus being crucified is really good news. I've come away from conversations like that in the past, and in all honesty, I've kind of felt like, oh my goodness, I did a really rubbish job of explaining that. Like, someone else could have been much more eloquent or wise sounding in the things that they said. Well, if that's ever been you, there's really good news for you. The Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians chapter 1 shows us that the message of Christ crucified isn't a message that's received by people because of cleverly constructed presentations or wise-sounding arguments full of fancy words. Rather, the message of Christ crucified is received because the Spirit himself comes and opens people's hearts to receive it. Let's take a look at what he says. So it's 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 17 through to 25 we're looking at today. It says this: "For Christ didn't send me to baptize, but to preach the good news, and not with clever speech, for fear that the cross of Christ would lose its power. The message of the cross is foolishness to those who are headed for destruction. But we who are being saved know that it is the very power of God. As the scriptures say, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise and discard the intelligence of the intelligent." So where does this leave the philosophers, the scholars, the world's brilliant debaters? God has made the wisdom of this world look foolish. Since God in his wisdom saw to it that the world would never know him through human wisdom, he has used our foolish preaching to save those who believe. It's foolish to the Jews who ask for signs from heaven, and it's foolish to the Greeks who seek human wisdom. So when we preach that Christ was crucified, the Jews are offended and the Gentiles say it's all nonsense. But to those called by God to salvation, both Jews and Gentiles, Christ is the power of God and the wisdom of God. This foolish plan of God is wiser than the wisest of human plans, and God's weakness is stronger than the greatest of human strength. That, friends, should be really encouraging to us to hear. The fact that the message of Christ crucified isn't one that sounds wise according to human wisdom, but it is God's wisdom. And so we don't win people over by cleverly constructed arguments or by sounding really eloquent. People are won over by the message of Christ because the Spirit of God opens their hearts to receive it. And so I want to encourage you, take confidence every opportunity that you get to share the extremely good news of Jesus dying on a cross, because it means that we get to be set free from our own wisdom and we get carried up into a higher wisdom where we find life and freedom and eternal life and relationship with God. Knowing that people respond not because of our cleverness or our ability in our own strength, but because of the Spirit in us. So take courage, take every opportunity that you have. Don't worry about how people respond. When the Spirit of God is upon someone and it's their time to respond, us simply stepping out in obedience will be the very thing that God uses to open up their hearts and to receive life. Take encouragement. Simply walking in obedience, speaking out the message when you get the opportunity, is what brings life.